How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I'm going to be talking to Zach Chapman. How's it going, dude?
Dude, it's going great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know you reached out to me, but I wanted to say that when I got your so you sent me a couple books, and in the past I actually used one of them in my hidden gems. I really like, yes,
You did
dude.
too. That I sent you.
Yes. So the Spellslinger is solid, but the House of Blood, that is my type of story.
This one.
The one that I used for my hidden gems in October one year, and you I think you either retweeted or shared our video, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm dead serious. I know you sent me the book, but I forgot that you sent me the book. So whenever I was legit like just talking about a story I enjoyed, not like, hey man, I know the guy that sent me this. It was more like, this is a really cool anthology series, and I really wish that we had more of these, because that's the kind of stuff that I gravitate towards when I don't want to read about spandex superheroes. Right? I love the EC line. I love the Warren magazines. I love that type of stuff. And I know that like Skybound has been doing off and on with their Creep Show, which of course is based on the movie, which was based on the comics.
Yeah.
But you know, I think like that's what we need more of. And every once in a while, we'll see different companies like Image try to do like the Silver Coin anthologies and things like that. But it's really cool. I can't get enough of those kind of stories.
I agree. I think when House of Blood launched on Kickstarter, this was 2022. I want to say it might have been 2023. So it's a couple of years ago. There was actually kind of a dearth of sequential or of like, you know, short horror anthologies. There was like that right now there's kind of a boom, so it's kind of awesome. But back then it was like there was just few and far between of anthology horror that was like solid, that was like, I don't know, prestige or however you want to call it. But I think when I started writing all the House of Blood stories, the Creep Show revival was not at Image at that time. And Silver Coin was not a thing, and I love those. I love those. I'm glad that that it's making a comeback. And now EC, you know, Oni has EC, and that might be like my top. That might be like my favorite anthology horror stuff that's coming out right now. And they have a flavor for everyone too. I don't know if you. They might have started making it into collected editions, but they're pretty new. You know, they're floppies right now.
I think you're right. I think the very first story comes out in July, if I'm not mistaken, the EC collection. And I'm excited about those stories too, because I'm curious where the new stories are going to go. Because Creepshow had a revival on, what was it, Shudder, right? Like,
that's right. Yeah,
you had the Creepshow movies 1 and 2, which, oh my god, I love those. 3 and 4 went straight to DVD. I think, and they were okay, right? And not George Romero and Stephen King, like they were doing their own things. And then the TV show on Shudder, it's ups and downs, hits and misses. I know one of them, one of the writers went on to write one of the short stories for the Creepshow comic at Skybound Image. So I thought that was interesting that the screenwriter went on to do the comic too, like did a couple of the stories there.
They're definitely sharing writers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which, I mean, if you're not successful or the TV show isn't successful, try to see how well the comic will do. But yeah, I was a big fan of your anthology, and now you're working on something new. So tell me a little bit about the other book that you held up, the second.
Spellslinger.
Tell me about that one. I know you sent that my way too.
So Spellslinger is it's also a little horror. It's also Western, and it's also kind of fantastical. Guy wakes up and there's a ghost above his head, and he has to maybe solve the murder. It starts off as a murder mystery, but then it really gets very crazy. There's a death cult. There's a vindictive, murderous sheriff. And the main character, he casts spells out of a revolver. So it's very like more on the fantastical element. And this one seems to really resonate with people that like TTRPGs. So if you like kind of like the gamification of like spell management and that sort of thing, this might be your jam. But also, like, if you like weird westerns, if you like horror westerns, or if you like, genre, like, just, I tend to just throw genre in a blender and just hit spin. And that's and this is actually written before House of Blood. And maybe you might be able to, like, some people can tell that, but it has I relettered everything before this came out last year. And there's very few copies of this. You can grab this digitally on my Kickstarter, on my current Kickstarter, and I may do a second printing, but it will not have certain exclusive things in here, and it might have a different cover. But that's kind of up in the air because, like, print runs on an indie creator are very costly. So it's kind of like, if I can justify the costs, if I have that kind of money, then I will, because it's a lot. The print runs are a lot. This one did sell well. It's sold out. There's a few copies that I'm holding on to in reserve for people who did not fill out their surveys, and that's it. So there's like 5 copies left. But you can get the digital version if some people prefer to read digital. I'm about 50-50. So if you like digital copies and you like Weird West, this is available on my current Kickstarter as a pledge.
So, dude, before we talk about your main book that we're here to talk about, the latest Kickstarter, tell me a little bit about you. Like, how, because you've done, I remember when you were doing the spell, was it the house? No, it was the other book.
Whenever you were on Mars, there's one more too. There's also a Haunting on Mars.
Yeah, okay, that one. You had done previous Kickstarters, and they've all been successful.
Yeah,
so dude, big congratulations, because that is not easy for anyone to do. Like, seriously.
No, it's very hard. And I'm kind of, I work with a lot of artists, but as far as like fulfillment and running the Kickstarters, I am like a one-man publisher. And I have worked with other publishers before, but as far as in the comics industry, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of the business, but it can be incredibly predatory in the space that I'm in, which is like the professional indie space that's not Image. Basically, like, if you're a pro but you're not getting published at Image or maybe Dark Horse, there's a lot of I can't legally name names of publishers, but you can look at the history of the publication of my works and you can find publishers, and it's just a dangerous place for creators. So I've gravitated towards Kickstarter because I can make it more, it's a more sustainable environment for me. And I'm also in more creative control. And I can do like weird things, like make 36-page issues, which is not something that can do very well on a shelf at a regular comic store, because they have to print it in a print run. It's more expensive. People are less likely to buy $7 or $8 issue. So I've found more success on Kickstarter. You sell less than being in the stores, but you end up making more money because publishers don't end up paying or whatever, allegedly.
Okay. Oh my God. And you don't have to worry about distribution right now, which is becoming a nightmare for a lot of publishers.
True. Yeah, actually, I do have a deal with Lunar through Massive, which I may be using. It's kind of like I got into their Lunar distro, which is great. but I just haven't bit the bullet to print copies and to ship. So and to put it into solicitation, because that's also a cost. So as I'm still like weighing options there,
Mhm.
you know, the more successful the Kickstarters are, the more likely that I can afford a print run that can go, that's the size that it needs to be to go into stores. So it's a juggling act business
Yeah,
wise.
I don't think a lot of people realize that there is it kind of like a cutoff, or like you have to reach a certain point in order to have books distributed through Lunar, and it's a lot less through Lunar than it is through PRH, because PRH deals with like books, not to sound like a book snob or anything, but like they consider that, you know, like this
Yeah.
is the book market.
Yeah.
If you're a comic book creator and you're a comic book publisher, you have to have a minimum amount of books that they have to distribute, and a lot of people can't cut that PRH minimum. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it's actually really hard. And Diamond was like that when I was looking into this like 2 years ago, and
Mhm.
so that's how a lot of like micro indie publishers will show up. Is that you know, it was like, oh well, I can do about one book a month, and you know, Diamond at the time, like they needed five, something like that. I don't think it might not have been five, but it might have been like need a
Zach, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. No, it
Sorry,
looks.
you were cutting out a little bit, and I don't know if that's on my end or on your end.
Yeah, I think
So
it might have. I don't
it
think it's on my end, but yeah, you
okay,
can go
good. If you
now.
can hear yourself, then that's all good. All good. Then keep on trucking. That's what's important.
Cool.
Um, all right. So this is why you decided you were gonna go through Kickstarter and kind of do your own thing. How did okay, let's go back to your very first Kickstarter. How in the hell did you spread word about your book without having a previously published title, without, you know, like how did you do this, dude? Because I think to me this is a huge like win. I don't know if you realize it or enough people have told you that. That is a huge win. I know dudes that have been trying to kickstart their own comics that have not been successful and have had stuff published at DC, Marvel, or Image, or Dynamite, or Oni Press.
Yeah, and I do see other like names that I recognize. They're not indie people, and they'll do books that struggle, or you know,
Yeah.
that barely make funding, or that don't make funding. And there's also very incredibly professional looking books that just get a couple backers, and I can't really explain that. You know, uh as far as my current stuff, like I do a lot of I try to do a lot of marketing. I print flyers, I ship
Mhm.
flyers, I go on a lot of podcasts, I send out arcs. And you know, so I've kind of built a network. But as far as the success of House of Blood, uh I think that, well, like what I was talking about earlier, I think that there was a large
Oh,
market. There's a large market for anthology horror, and there was no books out. I mean, like I said, there was no Creepshow. Creepshow may have been like into early issues. Like they might not have even been out when House of Blood launched. And I think the other thing is like if you get 10, 15 artists, they're all retweeting because they want the book to succeed,
yeah.
then that's a big thing. Whereas like, you know, Spellslinger is just like me and Ben retweeting, you know, it's like it's harder to get those books, um, you know, when it's just, but anthologies I feel like tend to do better on Kickstarter because people see it as like a community, like a community work, even though it's typically fun. These are typically funded before they run on Kickstarter. Like I self-funded, you know, uh, I had money from other, you know, Spellslinger started off on TV and film and then moved into comics.
Oh,
So yeah, and then so you know I was able to kind of play with like, you know, funding stuff outside of Kickstarter and then using the Kickstarter mainly for print and distribution purposes, to pay for print and distribution. And so that's kind of been my model, is like I've been able to pay most of my art up front which is that's actually the biggest cost. And then paying myself back with each Kickstarter, and then that goes to the print run and the distribution, and then paying for art for future projects like Dino Knights. A Haunting on Mars' last Kickstarter actually did pretty, like, I was very impressed with it. And now, that money's going into funding Dino Knights, like the art for Dino Knights.
So man, that is you're taking a bit of a gamble when doing that. And I'm glad that it's paid off, because you're doing the right thing. You're paying your artists first, right? You're not
Yeah.
You're not like, hey man, go on this journey with me where we're gonna eat ramen noodles and live on the street, and it's gonna be great, but we'll be phenomenal comic book creators by the end of this long ride. It's more like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna go do the right thing and pay you ahead of time, and then from the Kickstarter, whatever I get, in the end, I'll pay myself back. It's almost like you're taking a loan on yourself, and not that everybody can do that, but that is a very smart thing to do.
Yeah. So that it is like taking a loan on myself, and like I paid off. I was able to pay off. We were able to pay off our student loans pretty quickly, and so I kind of think of each investment in my comics career as like training or learning, or so it's not like when I view it in that way, it's not the end of the world for me. If I just look at like money in, money out, then it actually is a little bleak. But I mean, so is education. Like, people pay a lot of money for education, and a lot of times it doesn't go anywhere. As far as monetizing your education, sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know. When I view it like that, I'm like, it is a gamble, but it's also like it's part of, like, I just have to do it. Like, I have to make comic books. I have to write. It's like part of my being. Like, I can't not do it. I don't know. Like, I think my family may have discovered this about me, but it's like a secret with other people, where it's like, oh, well, I'd be doing this anyways, even if the Kickstarters were not doing so well. I mean, I always want them to do better. Like, that's the other thing, is like, this was my most successful Kickstarter, at least as a first day that I've had, and I still always I'm like still disappointed. And I don't know if there's an amount of backers, or a certain, I'm always like, oh, I want 200 backers, I want 300 backers, and so that's the other thing, is like the bar there's always like a higher bar that you can go to. So
what drove a young Zach to think in that way, that this is what I want to do? You said student loans, so you went to college, and then So what made you at one point going, I think I want to make comics, I just don't want to read them? How long have you been reading comics?
So I've been reading comics. I guess I've always been reading comics. I like first comics like Golden Age, Superman, Superboy. I think in my grandma's house there was like an old box. So 50s auto bender type stories, like so I like the like weird sci-fi Superman type stories, like Red Kryptonite, Bottle, City of Kandor, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was cool. I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7. And then when I was a little bit older, I got the trade paperback of Death of Superman and Superman Returns. And I know like maybe those are not like the like, I don't know if they've aged super well. They haven't, but those are like the main graphic novels. And then like, I think I don't always bring this up, but I think it's discounted a little bit in like our side of this comics. But I mean, Calvin and Hobbes, like huge, like actual, like, Sunday mornings comic strips. I read a ton. And then, read a lot of like novels and stuff in high school. And then, in college, I hit the indie comic scene, or like when I say indie, I just mean independent, like Image type comics. And I got really into those in college. And I started pitching in college too. but then kind of fell off. I also wrote prose and novels, but I basically threw out all of my novels. You know, in a lot of writers' journey, like it takes you got to write a lot to like get confident or get good or whatever you need. But like basically, I have 2 fully finished novels that I just completely tossed out once I finished writing them. And I felt like a lot of the stories that I like to write are better represented in comic book form than novel form. And then I wrote short stories, and I'm a professionally published short story sci-fi writer of stories in Nature and Writers of the Future and other magazines and anthologies. And so that was part of how I ended up optioning Spellslinger, and then that ended up, you know, eventually becoming this big, thick graphic novel. So yeah, it's kind of like I guess like a lot of writers' journey. I was writing in a lot of different spaces, but it probably wasn't until like maybe 2017 where I just kind of dropped prose altogether and just said, no, I want to just do comics. I want to focus on comics. That's like what I'm most passionate about. You know, I don't know. I don't watch a ton of television, so it's like I'm not equipped to like write for that. Like like writing a Bible for a TV series is also like a really that's tough work. I mean, running a Kickstarter is tough work, but I find it more rewarding than, you know, if you write a series Bible, and you might have like heard this from other writers, but you write a series Bible and then there's like a 5% chance that, well, one, it's not creative. It doesn't feel creative when you're writing like materials to be used on a show. And then the 95%, more than 95% of shows don't get made. So there's also like, you put a bunch of like emotional effort into something, and it's like, there's nothing for you to hold. Like, it's just gone, you know, you make money, but it's gone. So it's like, I'd rather have something like, I have a day job to make money. So like, I want something I can hold, and I want to like tell stories that people will experience. And it's like, if you're just writing pitch materials for Bible television shows, it's like, it's not like a story, you know.
You seem so young for someone that has had so much experience, man. Maybe you just look really young. But like, seriously, like it seems like you have tried different avenues to tell your stories, and you found the one medium that you're really happy with, and it happens to be comic books. You know, I love hearing that. I've heard that quite often lately from somebody like Patrick Horvath, who's been working on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. And, you know, he came from television, and he didn't really find the success that he wanted, came over to comics and took off for like, it's a really cool story. Like, he took off for like a year to learn to draw, and he taught himself how to draw, and now he's making these comics that people really like. And it's just, to me, it's amazing that people are like that, that you find that happy medium. In your case, it seems to be comic books. So this latest book, Dino Riders, or not Dino Riders, somebody wrote Dino Riders in the comment, I'm sorry. The Dino Knights. Cool name.
Oh, thanks.
What brought that on? Like, that is different than the stuff that you had done before.
Yeah.
From what you've shared with me. So
sure.
How did this come about?
Well, I mean, I like genre. I like any kind of genre type stuff, like fantasy, horror, science fiction. Those are the main ones, but I do like all genres. I like crime and suspense and, you know, that kind of stuff too. But I mostly read comic books now. Well, for the last like 15 years, but I do also read a lot of novels. And the type of novel that I like to read is like a 1970s like new wave science fiction. That have like crazy idea, like Philip K. Dick and Ursula K. Le Guin are like the examples that I would, you know, that most people would be familiar with in the mainstream. So I like that kind of stuff. And my approach to writing a lot, and you might feel this in House of Blood, is almost like a science fiction approach first, where it's like, you know, like there's a lot of like kind of like weird ideas and House of Blood that I explore. And they're not necessarily science fiction, but there's like a fantastical element in almost every one of my House of Blood stories. And so I like the more fantastical stuff, but with like a more of like a science fiction-y feel. And so I was kind of making my way to that through all of these projects. And A Haunting on Mars, it is actually, I mean, it is half science fiction, half, and that was the last Kickstarter that I did, A Haunting on Mars, which is a metal cover that you can see. But yeah, it is literally half and half. And then now more fully transitioned to the Dino Knights, which is, it is again like a blender of genre where we have like a Saturday morning cartoon like visual vibe mixed with like the weird science fiction elements of like a new wave Philip K. Dick book. And then there's Arthurian lore to kind of like fall back on like the tropes. So yeah, like a lot of ideas just kind of and I've been, this has been in the works for a little over 2 years now. I have like 6 issues almost in fully completed, like they're almost fully completed. And I'm basically kickstarting them all this year. So some people are like going like with a subscription. But yeah, that's kind of like I guess the lore on like how I got there.
So the sci-fi element is what really brings a lot of these stories for you together. That's, I guess it makes sense, because when reading this, it seems like at first when you're reading about the Dino Knights, it seems like it is taking place in like a medieval type of story, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever you're introduced to these characters. By the way, I was really surprised. Like I'm like, at first I was like, oh, he's doing an all ages book. Nope, there are people getting decapitated. I was like, okay, that's what we're doing.
I mean, I like, yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about all ages. If a parent asks me, I always just say, hey, I'd let my kid read it. but
yeah,
that's what I say.
Well, it's funny because like when people ask me about like Berserk, right? Like, would you let a kid read it at 13? I was like at 13 years old, I would have loved to have read Berserk.
Yeah.
My daughter, on the other hand, hell no, she's not allowed to read Berserk.
Yeah.
But the kids always find a way to get these things. But back to what I was saying. Okay, so at first I'm like, okay, we're reading a medieval type of story that happens to have anthropomorphic dinosaurs with swords, shields, magicians. Cool. And then there's this element of sci-fi whenever they're fighting those robots, and I don't want to spoil what happens with Earth, but like in the background, but that was like, oh, there's a lot more going on. And then there's something else that's added a little bit later that I didn't see coming. I was like, that's pretty cool, man. So definitely the element of sci-fi is in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It is very much a time travel science fiction story. I mean, it's a balance for all of these things. The reason issue 1 takes place like almost entirely in Arthurian times is like it almost functions as like an issue 0. I wanted to because this is like, I'm seeing this as like an ongoing series. I think a lot of like big 2 books would just kind of go through this kind of, or issue 1 is an origin story for the main character. It's his entire origin. It's why he's different from the other Dino Knights. Is that, without spoiling what happens, that's the function of the first issue. And I wanted to take time with these characters because I'm seeing this as an ongoing series. I'm like very invested in these characters and this setting that I didn't want to just be like, okay, here's the team. It's like, you don't get that team at all in issue 1. Yeah, I mean, you get a taste. There's a through line with a narrator who is a different team member. This is a bit of a spoiler, but that's like the hook that keeps it kind of like in the milieu of Dino Knights. But yeah, so I wanted to take more than 20 pages just setting up our leader of the Dino Knights.
Mhm.
And then we can start getting into what's actually happening, which is,
Yeah.
robots, time travel and all this other crazy stuff. And then like it's basically where it ends is it's kind of like a sandbox where a lot of different fantastical science fiction things can happen after the conclusion of this first arc. And I am continuing this. I'm like working on issue 7 right now, because the campaign funded, and it looks like this is going to be sustainable for me. So I've already moved on. I'm like, oh, I've got arcs.
Same creative team, same writer.
It's all me. I'm the writer
I'm
and the
sorry,
letterer.
same artist.
Yeah, and I work with different artists. Dave Schwartz,
Mhm.
he's going to be on covers throughout basically the whole series, but his schedule, like he works on a lot of Kickstarter projects. So depending on his schedule, like the next couple issues, we switch artists. And right now, actually, we got one of Rodrigo Catraca is doing issue 7, and he's great. Yep. Yeah, I'm like literally working with him right now, and it's
That's
great.
awesome.
Like it's
Okay.
it's a lot of fun. And the other part of like what Dino Knights was like, how can I like have different artists like bring something to the work? Like there's something about like Saturday morning cartoons like He-Man, where it was like there's like so many different artists that have like a say in He-Man that it looks crazy, but it kind of just fits. Like all of the different styles and different, like this character is more science fiction, this guy's got a gun, this guy's like
Yeah, yeah.
completely fantasy, and this is a barbarian. But like when you see them separated, you're like, oh, this is all different stuff. But then when you see them standing together in a scene, you're like, oh, this is a vibe. So like that was a like a distinct thing that I wanted for this series was like I wanted multiple artists to have their take on these characters, and then to add to it, when we start introducing new characters. So yeah.
So you got a different story arc that you're shaping up in your head. That would you say the first 6 issues are your first story that you're trying to tell,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
the second story arc would begin with issue number 7.
Yeah.
How are these? How are you distributing these through Kickstarter? Is this something digital? Is it physical copies? Like, how is it that you're doing this?
So yeah, so I handle all of the distribution. I use
God bless you.
USP for yeah. I do it like my last one. I did it in a weekend. I fulfilled
You
over
don't
like
sleep,
150
Zach.
orders.
There's no
No,
way
yeah,
you sleep.
yeah. It was a blitz. Like I do this thing. I call it like a blitz fulfillment.
Mhm.
And I prepare, I kind of prepare myself for it. I kind of like get my schedule ready, and then I'm I'm up all night for basically like 3 nights, and it's like the weekend after, and I ship out all the orders that I can, that I can. Some are a little special, and that there might be something that I have to get, like a specific artist has to sign something, or I might be waiting on something, so there might be like
Mhm.
a couple orders that take longer. But yeah, so I handle all the physical for now. We will see if things get like over, like if I get over 500 backers, that's gonna start killing me. I wouldn't be able to handle that, but I'm at a rate where it's like typically between 100 150 per my Kickstarters that I have to physically mail in the mail.
Mhm.
Um, and I use USPS, and I love them. USPS, they're the best. Like we should definitely support our postal service. They're great. But yeah, and digital I fulfill as well through Kickstarter. Now I'm going to be doing like emails, because there's like a subscription service that you can buy on this one where you're getting digital drops of the upcoming issues a day before their campaign launches. So the people that do the high digital tiers, they're getting their rewards, like they're going to be the first readers, and they're also getting
okay.
like some special podcast stuff that Dave and I have cooking.
Got you. Okay. So how would you pitch this story that you're telling? If you had, and I always like to ask creators, like, give me the elevator pitch, because we can go into detail about the things that you're doing with the first story arc. But if you were to meet a stranger and they're like, "Hey, you write stories," and you're like, "Yeah, let me tell you about my latest one." You got a minute on this elevator. How would you pitch it?
Oh man, I'm so really bad at this. I just,
Oh no, I put you on the
yeah,
spot.
I know I'm terrible at it. I call it a science fiction Arthurian fantasy comic: dinosaurs, knights, time travel, evil robots, and it's an ongoing series. So
I'll tell you what you do, Zach. You start with Dinosaur Knights first, because those two words like brings out the like 10-year-old in me going, "What? That sounds badass." Go on. Like
yeah, it's a little bit harder. I find this one hard to pitch. I mean, I didn't really pitch to any publishers because I found it so hard to pitch. You know, it's like it has so many, I don't know, it's silly to say, but it's like it's got so many inspirations and it's going in so many different directions that like A Haunting on Mars is like the title is the pitch. That is a ghost story that takes place on Mars.
yeah, right.
And then House of Blood, it's like it's my take on EC Comics. Spellslinger, dude casts spells out as a revolver, hunts demons. The thing is I'm good with those because like I go to these conventions and people always say, "Oh, what are you selling?" And so I just like have my little 2-second, but I haven't done that for Dino Knights. So it's like, I haven't found the groove yet for that. So it's like Arthurian, it's time travel, it's Saturday morning cartoons, and it's fun too. It's a fun series. It's the funnest series that I've done. I'll say that.
The funnest series that you've done. I like that though. And as long as you're having fun too, I think that's what's very important. And it seems like you are whenever you're looking at the pages, and also when you're telling about your story. So I like to tell people or ask people, like creators, you know, give me the elevator pitch. How would you pitch this?
I can see that elevator for a long time. I was terrible at it.
You were struggling a little bit. Yeah. It's like, oh man,
you're waiting to get off, man. Yeah.
But I think you did a good job. You did explain everything that I think needed to be explained within that minute. When are fulfillments going out? I know that sometimes, especially in the world we live in today with printers and everything, like when are the fulfillments scheduled to go out? As soon as the campaign is over?
Yeah, I'll probably start shipping, if I'm lucky, a month from now. I'm actually going to, dude. Yeah, I'm going to submit the order. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to submit the order before I get funds from Kickstarter. Because and the reason I'm doing that is because I need to be on schedule for hitting the fall 3 and 4, and Kickstarter is like really strict with where I'm at on Kickstarter. So a lot of people have broad range on Kickstarter, but where I'm at, Kickstarter is very strict about how quickly you can do simultaneous or like upcoming campaigns. So I need to have my orders delivered well before fall. I mean, they're going to be delivered probably. I'm going to be shipping them hopefully this time next month. Okay. But that does depend on the printer though, because the printer can take random amounts of times. The last with A Haunting on Mars, I want to say like they had like a 3-week turnaround. So it's like that's doable. Like I can if it ends but about a month and a half is probably what I'll be doing. Like, you know, I submit my order, they get it printed, they get it shipped here, and then I'm blitzing. So yeah, I'm blitzing. Blitzing. Yeah, I'm getting them in the mail like as fast as I can. So yeah.
Oh, I could use one of them blitz nights, man. I may need one here in the next couple of days.
I have it down to a science. Or do you fulfill? Yeah, it's fun.
Well, I don't fulfill, but it's more like, I gotta read, I gotta finish reading, I gotta film, I gotta edit, and then I gotta finish this book because we have like an old reader, new reader tonight. How am I gonna sneak dinner into this? Plus, go and get my daughter. Like it's like I need a blitz couple of days. Like I think that's what I could use.
Yeah.
What is your drink of choice when you're doing this with no sleep?
Oh, definitely coffee. I mean,
Coffee.
I'm
Okay,
just
you're
a
a coffee
coffee
drinker.
fanatic. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
that's
I'm
my
glad,
drink of
I'm glad
always.
you didn't go the route of like liquid. What is that? Liquid energy drinks and like.
Oh,
I'm like, oh man, I'm glad you didn't go that route.
oh
Okay.
yeah, like
Caffeine,
the
I can do.
ginseng shots. No, I'm not that.
Yeah, yeah, I can do some caffeine.
No, yeah, I stopped drinking the crazy caffeine. The Four Locos. I'm not doing a Four
Yeah,
Locos.
that
No.
kind of stuff is what I was worried you were gonna say.
No,
So once this is done, brother, like it seems like you really have a passion for this comic book and writing comics. What's next for you? What are you working on? Or do you have another project you want to work on? You want to do a continuation of another book that
yeah,
you
I mean, I
you've
do.
been
Well, I
reading?
want to continue Spellslinger because it's
Okay.
sold out and people love that. And then I have something that I'm going to be pitching. I'm co-writing with my wife. This is an exclusive. I haven't talked about this. I have a book,
Go on.
a book called Sailor Scream, and it is a magical girl with a 90s slasher.
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into the details there, but it's something that I'm very excited about. And then other than that, I'm working on Kaiju Blues, which is a book that I work with Ty Peterson on. At some point I'm gonna put A Haunting on Mars in a trade paperback. That's a little bit easier for me because I don't have to produce. I do page layout and design, so I'm gonna have to do the print prep and all of that kind of stuff, and just the editing of the A Haunting on Mars is complete. It's 5 issues, but at some point, probably early next year, I'm gonna put it into a trade paperback, and you'll be getting that as soon as that's these metal covers that you see here. These beautiful things. I am gonna have metal covers, and they're full functioning comic books too.
Don't you bring those Four Locos? Wait. What do you mean? Oh yeah, man. There we go.
Oh, yeah. These are available. These metal covers they are available as add-ons on Dino Knights. So I'm doing I didn't have a specific tier for it, but there are, if I'm willing to print them, if people are willing to buy them. So they're available if you like premium stuff like that. So
yeah, people love the metal covers these days, as I've come to find out.
Yeah, they're it's actually metal. This is not a it's not like a foil cover. It's sheet metal that they print on. They're pretty cool.
That's nuts. But hey, more power to you all if you enjoy your metal covers, because I'm like, how can you? But then again, I read Omni, so I'm like, how can you read that with comfort? Never mind.
No, I know. I've dropped both on my toes. I've dropped an Omni on my toe. They're different.
Which hurt? Wait, what hurt more, the Omni or
this
like a scientific experiment? The Omni or
this will slice you if you drop it in a certain area.
Oh, you're talking about the cover, like the metal cover when it lands on. Oh, ouch!
But an Omni, that'll bruise you. An Omni will bruise you. Yeah. And also Omnis are like you gotta be careful reading those in bed too. Like you smack. Yeah, I've smacked myself. Like yeah. I'm
falling asleep like that. I'm like, oh damn. Oh yeah, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
But I can imagine reading a metal cover, but I think metal covers are more for collectors, right? Like
for sure.
Love the covers, so they're like, oh, I got to get a metal version of that.
Yeah, and I tell people, well, on anyone who backs a physical copy, they get the digital copies sent. So like I know that there are backers of mine that they take their books, they immediately get them graded. So it's like they want to read it. They can read it. They can read the digital copy. They don't have to worry about it. And the way I ship, these are packaged like they're not gonna get damaged. I've learned my first Kickstarter. You gotta be careful with how you ship stuff. You have to really back heavy with a heavy amount of cardboard. Otherwise, like stuff can get damaged in transit. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got it down to a science while you're blitzing, which makes it even crazier. But good on you, man. So you got a project with your wife. That's wonderful. I love when creators and their significant other starts working together. I hope it works out. Some people cannot work with their significant others, and that's okay. But I hope it works out for you, and I hope you all come out with I like that that idea though.
That one's easier to pitch. So I'm actually pitching that one. Like we're developing a full pitch, and like it's a good elevator pitch. It's like this is a magical girls. This is like, are you familiar with Sailor Scream? Okay, well, or Sailor, are you familiar with Sailor Moon? Are you familiar with 90s slashers? Like wouldn't that be cool if they were smushed together? Yeah. I'm always blending genres, man.
But I like that you got to throw the sci-fi element twist into that story with your wife, so she can be like, "That
too many, too much."
Doing here, Zach. This is a lot.
Yeah.
Where did these robots come from?
Yeah.
Chopping Mall. That's where. I love that movie. So, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and talking about this wonderful Kickstarter you got going on. I do want to let my viewers know there are 8 days left on the Kickstarter if you want to go and check out the campaign. And let me double check. Yes, it is 8 days. I have shared the link to the Kickstarter on the description of the video, but if you're watching right now, here is the link to the Dino Knights, the Once and Future Knights. And can you also get your other books through the Kickstarter? You mentioned like going back and getting some of your other stuff.
Everything is available except for Spellslinger Physical. This is the only one that's not available. Everything else you can get via add-on or a certain tiers. And then if if there's something that you don't see on there, just message me and I can see if I can add it. Everything should be available except for that. I have copies of everything except for that. So
this man does not sleep, so he can answer your questions.
It's true.
He has a daytime job and he's working on all these comics while shipping stuff out. I don't know how you've managed to do this, but good on you, man. That's awesome.
I had to give up video games. Kind of.
Dude, I said the same thing to my brother. Got pissed off. He's like, "You haven't played Elden Ring?" I'm like, "How many hours of Elden Ring have you played?" And he was like, 112. I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I can't play games like that anymore."
I mean, I think I spent like 2 hours on Godric or whatever. I beat him, and then I was like, "Oh, how many more bosses like this? That's 2 hours of dying straight. I can't do." I was like, "That's too many hours per boss.
Yeah.
Like I can't just."
I told him, I'm like, maybe I'll play a Switch game when I'm traveling, but that's it. That's my extent of like, I can't do these RPGs anymore because I love them. I absolutely love them. But if, in your line of work and what I do, it takes work to succeed. You can't just sit there and like, be like, I'll write that issue this weekend.
I mean, honestly,
Elden Ring. You know what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. I mean, exactly. I work from 8:30 to 5, and then I pick up my kids, and then family time, and then they go to bed at 8:30, and then I'm making comics till like 1 or 2. I mean, there's little room in there, but I'm a lot less social than I used to be. I mean, I used to be very very social, but then you have kids and it's like, now I just never go out, so but yeah, I like making comics. It's like, it's a hobby too, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy working with artists, and
I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. You still have the drive and passion and energy. A lot of people burn out, man. It's not for everybody.
Well,
once you realize that you're like, I've been doing this for 5 years.
And that's why I mean, that's why I warn a lot of creators come to me and they start talking like small, mid, even some large publishers, and I just I kind of give them a warning. I say, like, this is a way, like, I've seen so many people who sign with these people and then they burn out because the money's not there, or they only get their first issue released, and then they're in some limbo of, when's the issue 2 coming out, or when's the, and then, oh yeah, we moved your date back. And then, so it's like, I see a lot of burnout there. And, I was like, that could have been me, but I was like, I think that Kickstarter could be the future of comics. I mean, there are people that are at Image, like when you get to a certain level, you can kind of take off, because there is money in Image, and also, mainstream book publishing.
They help facilitate the thing that you're talking about, shipping.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and
ship
they
these
make
books.
they
Absolutely,
well.
absolutely.
Once you start selling more than 5,000 copies, you start selling 10, 20,000 copies, you start making money, and then then it's a sustainable model. But I think a lot of the smaller publishers that don't sell those numbers, it's like they're going to recoup their costs before you get anything, so it's like a lot of but so I stepped away from it, and I give people who are like in my spaces, I give them a lot of warning, like, there are good publishers, and there are a lot of more predatory ones that are like trying to, their contracts read like an IP, like an option, except they don't give you money, and options do give you money. So,
and that, I mean, we've seen recent cases where, lack of a contract or not looking at a contract thoroughly kind of bites you in the ass as a creator later on. You're living the hype at the moment, like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this for a living, and then something happens if you're not. I think that's some really good advice that you're giving people, Zach. That's because there's a realism when it comes to creating books. It's like everybody wants to do it, but once you're there, it's like, oh, what route do I choose? And it's good to have a mentor and somebody that has been there, done it themselves, for so long, and has seen the benefit of doing it that way. And also how not to get burned out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say, like, if you can put a book together that's like, 20 pages long, or I mean, some of these people, they put together a book that's 100 pages long. It's like, if you can do that, you can put books in the mail, you can put logos on, you can learn how to letter, you can do, like, that's incredibly hard work to get a finished product. Publishing is, that's not, I mean, it's hard work, but it's not as hard as making the damn thing, So
that is true. Dude, thank you so much for joining us today.
Anytime.
Everybody go and check out the Kickstarter. Go and show Zach some love. He's willing to ship out your books during a blitz.
The hell blitz.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you're doing it all, man. I hope also, as a small reminder to you, to take a break. People remind me all the time to take a break. And I'm like, go watch a movie or something is what I do to kind of break myself now, instead of playing hundreds of hours of RPGs, which I wish I could do that. Thank you for the words of advice too, for anybody that's making comics. I think a lot of people can learn from that. Like, it's not just glamour. It's not just my IP is gonna get picked up for a movie deal.
Nah, it's like your IP about to get stolen. You gotta get worried about it getting stolen for 5-10 years for zero this amount of money. They want to pay for your IP this amount.
Yeah, dude, who was I? Was it Robert Venditti? I think I was talking to Robert Venditti, and he was like, "Yeah, the first thing I did, I got picked up for a movie deal," and I was like, "What? That's crazy!" And he was like, "Yeah, I've never." Like, he was going to me, like, people that luck out sometimes, man. And he's a great writer, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa. And I think that's the expectation when it comes to it from a lot of people.
Yeah, because you hear the success, but you don't hear like the
I know for a fact you've seen creators that are only in it to make like somebody to pick up their IP to be a movie or TV deal. You have to have seen it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what most of these small time publishers are. That's why they're asking for TV and film revenue. So, which is crazy, in regular book publishing, they don't ask. They don't ask for TV and film. but it's like commonplace. It's like boilerplate with these smaller publishers. I digress. I'm so bitter about it, and I have
I've seen it happen, and I've heard horror stories about
Scott's saying IP farms. That is what they are.
Yeah,
but they're a graveyard.
I'm not gonna say any names, any publishers, but I know for a fact some of these smaller publishers is exactly what they're doing. Some of them have crashed and burned, which is why they're not putting out anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them you look and certain distributors stop taking their solicits. you can look at some news articles. I'm not legally allowed to say who, but
it sucks, man. But that is true. When you said predatory publishers, I think of those that want you to sign away all these ideas that you have, and then there's a reason why some creators don't work with certain publishers. So, what a great conversation, man. Anytime you want to come back, anytime you got a new project, all you got to do is reach out, brother. You're always welcome back. I was a big fan of your House of Blood, and I cannot wait to read the Dino Knights. So,
we'll collect it and trade at some point. It'll be, and this is already in trade, so you can.
Oh yeah, go and pick that up too.
If you're afraid of floppies, there is something for you.
You're afraid of floppies? I'm afraid of those metal covers dropping.
Yeah, that is true. I would be. I mean, I am afraid of them.
We are out of here, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Zach, for joining me.